as the sun dipped below the horizon, casting a warm amber glow over the neighborhood. I settled into the creaky wooden chair on my front porch, a glass of sweet tea in hand. The tranquil evening was interrupted by the high-pitched whine of a golf cart careening around the corner, coming to an abrupt halt in front of my house. Behind the wheel sat Linda, the self-appointed queen of the homeowners association, her perfectly coiffed hair barely moving despite the sudden stop. "You and your porch are bringing down the property values," she snapped, her eyes narrowing behind oversized sunglasses. I stood up slowly, a polite smile playing on my lips. "Well then," I replied, "perhaps it's time to call in some reinforcements." Linda's expression flickered with confusion, likely assuming I was referring to family. In truth, I meant the local motorcycle club whose bikes I often serviced in my garage. But let's not get ahead of ourselves. Moving to this meticulously manicured suburb was never part of my life plan. I inherited the house from my Aunt Margaret, a sweet woman with an impressive collection of ceramic owls and a penchant for baking the most heavenly lemon bars. She had lived here peacefully for over 3 decades without a single complaint from the HOA. I, on the other hand, had barely unpacked my boxes when the first letter arrived. "Your porch furniture does not align with the community's aesthetic standards," it read in crisp, impersonal font. At that time, my porch was adorned with 2 weathered wicker chairs, their once vibrant cushions faded to a soft blue, and a small wooden table that had seen better days. Hardly an eyesore, I thought. But the letters kept coming, each more passive-aggressive than the last. Notes began appearing in my mailbox without postage, and neighbors I'd yet to meet offered cold stares during my evening dog walks. It felt like I'd stepped into a suburban dystopia where conformity was king. The first time I attended an HOA meeting, I was introduced to Linda. She epitomized the term Karen, with her icy blonde bob, perpetual scowl, and an air of superiority so thick it was almost tangible. She welcomed me with a smile that didn't reach her eyes, expressing hope that I'd uphold the standards that made Oakwood Grove a desirable place to live. "I plan to breathe and sit on my porch occasionally," I replied, attempting a light-hearted tone. Apparently, that was too much. Linda took her grievances to the community's social media page, posting photos of my porch with captions like, "Is this the image we want to project?" and "Who approved this dive bar decor?" One particularly zoomed-in shot of my sweet tea glass was accompanied by the caption, "Alcohol on the premises?" Comments of disgraceful behavior followed, with Linda's digital approval stamped on each. I refrained from engaging. Reacting impulsively would only play into their hands. Instead, I bided my time, formulating a plan. Before proceeding, let me clarify, I'm not a troublemaker. I pay my taxes, respect my neighbors, and keep my lawn tidy. But after spending 15 years in a motorcycle repair shop, I've learned that sometimes a little noise is necessary to be heard. Over the years, I'd built relationships with a diverse group of riders, weekend enthusiasts, retired veterans, even a pastor with a Harley. I'd offered free repairs during tough times, lent tools, and helped rebuild bikes after accidents. These bonds ran deep, and favors were banked for moments like this. The tipping point arrived 3 days before the porch confrontation. Linda appeared on my property in broad daylight, flanked by her usual entourage, clipboard in hand. "We've received multiple complaints about your porch being used as a social space," she announced without preamble. "Isn't that the purpose of a porch?" I inquired, genuinely puzzled. "Not in this community. We strive for refinement, not tailgate culture," she retorted, handing me a formal notice citing obscure HOA regulations about approved seating and the prohibition of visible beverage containers. "And if I choose not to comply?" I asked, already anticipating her answer. "The board may impose fines and pursue legal action for noncompliance," she stated, her cronies nodding in unison. I smiled, sensing her premature victory. Little did she know, I'd already reached out to my biker friends, and plans were in motion. As Linda strutted back to her golf cart, she muttered just loud enough for me to hear, "Some people diminish the neighborhood's appeal." I simply waved, the wheels of my plan already turning. That evening, an unmarked envelope was taped to my front door. Inside was a typed note. You don't know who you're dealing with. This escalated the situation from petty grievances to veiled threats. Linda wasn't just enforcing rules. She was wielding power indiscriminately. It became evident that I wasn't her first target, but I intended to be her last. By Monday, the digital fines began accumulating. An email from Brad, the HOA's compliance officer, listed my infractions: unauthorized porch use, non-conforming beverage containers, and, most amusingly, improper paint finish on exterior chairs. Attached was a PDF of approved muted tones, a palette so drab it could lull anyone to sleep. I didn't respond. Instead, I purchased a throw pillow shaped like a rooster wearing sunglasses and placed it on one of the 2 permitted chairs. It wasn't furniture, so technically, it didn't violate any rules. Linda noticed. She drove by multiple times that afternoon, each pass slower than the last, her disapproval palpable. She was plotting her next move. So was I. Later that week, Ellie, my neighbor 2 doors down, stopped by with a mason jar of homemade lemonade. Don't let her get to you, she advised. She pulled the same stunt with the Johnsons over a garden gnome. They moved within 6 weeks. Has anyone ever pushed back? I inquired. Most just comply or leave. But you might be different, she said with a hint of hope. Her words resonated. Initially, I sought peace and a place to heal. Now, it was about standing up to a bully who had terrorized the community unchecked. The following day, more violation notices appeared. Excessive outdoor conversation. I'd spoken on the phone outside. Visible beverage containers, and unauthorized social interactions. The absurdity was laughable. I leaned into it. I began hosting phone calls on the porch, speaking just loud enough to be noticeable but not disruptive. I ordered an array of eccentric mugs, a skull adorned with flowers, a pink flamingo, even one shaped like a toilet bowl, and used a different one each day. A doormat that read, "Porch Pirates Welcome," completed the ensemble. Technically, I wasn't breaking any rules, just skirting their edges. Linda was livid. She abandoned her golf cart surveillance for pedestrian patrols, clipboard in hand, circling my property like a vulture. Neighbors began to notice. Some smirked, others offered subtle waves. One evening, Tom from the corner house approached. You're braver than I am. Linda's like the HOA Terminator, he chuckled. She hasn't met my friends yet. I replied, cryptically. My reinforcements were scheduled to arrive that Saturday. Big Mike, Razor, and Jenna, loyal friends with a commanding presence, were more than willing.